Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA Veteran J.J. Ambrose. J.J., how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for doing it. J.J., you got a fight coming up May 31st at Pancrase 267. How's training been going for the fight?
You know, training's been going pretty good. I kind of had a different approach to this one, whereas in the past I'd watched a lot of video and kind of attack it from there. I just kind of took a back seat to the video watching, and I let my coaches do that, and then kind of game plan from there, so I don't have to do much thinking as far as I just train, you know, so I'm not second-guessing myself, and just doing whatever I'm supposed to do, basically.
Okay. Now, is this brand new, your approach, or has it been your approach the last couple of fights you've had?
You know, I'd find myself watching clips on YouTube and, you know, even watching interviews sometimes to see what a guy's mindset is. But, you know, I'm just focusing on myself and training hard and making sure I'm doing all the right things. So I guess it's new.
Okay. Now, in the past, you've trained at Paquette Top Team, Subfighter MMA, Tiger Muay Thai, a.k.a. Body Shop, Affliction Gym. I'm sure I'm missing some of those, are just the ones I can name off the top of my head. You've been to a lot of gyms during the course of your career. Where are you training at right now?
So right now I'm at a kickboxing gym called Unlimited MMA. So another thing that I do is that I've been going to sports-specific places. Like I go to a jiu-jitsu gym just for jiu-jitsu. So I go to Gorilla under Dave Camarillo. I do all my grappling there. And then I go to this Muay Thai gym for sparring. And then I go to a strength and conditioning gym for all that stuff. So, like, I feel like whenever I go to, like, MMA gyms, you go there with, like, a skill set, like AKA, for instance, and you use that skill set to spar. Like, over the years, like, I feel like I didn't pick up stuff. It's almost like MMA is the diluted form of the original art. So, in this way, I feel like I'm getting, like, the whole thing, the whole picture when I go to each individual gym. It's not watered down at all.
Okay. Because I was very curious about that, because obviously you have been to these gyms over the course of your career. It's not like the past year you've been to all these different gyms. This is, you've trained at these gyms over a long period of time. But I was always curious about that, why you kept jumping from gym to gym. Was it, you know, you just, what you're doing now is what you've always been looking for, and those gyms just couldn't offer that to you?
No, that wasn't it. I mean, like, I have traveled quite a bit. I mean, I lived over in Thailand for a few years, so Tiger Muay Thai and Paquette Top Team are pretty close to each other. It was just, you know, wherever all the pro MMA fighters were, that's where I would go when I was in Phuket. I originally was in Tiger Muay Thai, and then it kind of went touristy, you know. So, like, you know, that's the money maker. It's not in fighters. So Tiger Muay Thai kind of went touristy, and so I went down the street to Phuket Top Team and started sparring and training over there. And then when I moved back to the States, I remember being at AKA before, and it's not that AKA is a bad gym. I just feel like I wasn't getting the amount of attention that I needed to get better. I felt like I was just being a punching bag. And I don't blame that gym either, because, you know, when you have Cain Velasquez and me fighting, say, in the same month, like, why would you look at me when, you know, you have the world heavyweight champion? So that was my thought. Like, okay, this isn't for me anymore.
Okay. I was just really curious about that, because, like I said, there's all these different gyms. I thought, you know, maybe something you left on bad terms, something maybe happened with all these teams. But good to know. One thing I really wanted to touch on. Oh, go ahead.
I never had, like, a falling out with anybody. You know, it's always been amicable. I don't have anything bad to say about any gym. Like, as a fighter, you have to be kind of selfish. You know, whatever's going to make you better and what's best for your career. So, you know, wherever gym can offer me exactly what I need, that's where I'm going to go.
Did any of the gyms ever feel like home when you were going there and training? Did you ever say, like, I think I could last a long time here. I think I could finish my career here. Did you ever say that to yourself, or were you always looking for something that the whatever gym you were at couldn't offer you?
So I'm actually I'm belted under a guy named Tracy Hess at Subfighter.
Right.
And that'll always be my home gym. No matter where I go, that'll be it. Someday I'll get my black belt and it'll be from him. I train under Dave Camarillo. I pick up all these ninja moves from him, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go where I started with to get my black belt.
Okay. Just curious, how is Dave doing? He's not, as in the spotlight as he once was. How's he doing right now?
I think he's just really focused on his business. I trained with him a couple weeks ago. Like, it was just me, him, and a couple other guys, and we just did some really hard grappling sparring. And I asked him, I'm like, man, dude, you're a killer. How come you're not competing, with all the other guys, the Metamorphosis? I could see him going against Eddie Bravo and doing just fine,
right.
Possibly taunting him. But he just doesn't have that mindset right now. I mean, he said that he has to change his whole methodology of life, because he said he becomes kind of like an asshole when he has that mindset of training for a fight. And I totally get that. As a businessman and a family man, you can't really do that. You have to either go all the way or you don't go at all.
Right.
So I totally get where he's coming from. But it would be nice to see him compete again.
Right.
I know his brother Dan is really tearing up the circuit right now. I think he won Worlds last year.
Okay. JJ, one thing I really wanted to touch on today was that fight that you were supposed to have back in December for RFA. Obviously, that was a big opportunity for you, but, unfortunately, you suffered an injury and had to pull out of that fight. I'm just curious, what exactly was the injury and how serious was it? Was it a very serious injury or just serious enough to keep you off that card?
It was kind of interesting one day. Like, I was doing sprints, and I felt kind of like a twinge in my hip. I'm like, man, something's wrong, but, I kept going, of course, lesson learned is take it easy a little bit. But I've always been like one of those guys that just attacked training and didn't really think about days off. And if I was too tired to train, then okay, that's fine, I'll take a day off. But I wasn't really listening to my body at that time, and I had like a slight growing tear apparently. Mm-hmm. And then when we rescheduled for April, I guess Mehdi hurt himself this time, so we had to push it back again. So it's been kind of frustrating because I feel like I've been fighting camp for the last 6 months. Ready to fight. It's like going to work every day without a paycheck.
Right.
There's no reward.
Right. Ultimately, whose call was it to pull out of that fight? Was it you, or sometimes a fighter can be his own worst enemy? He doesn't know when to shut it down. Was there someone else who was like, what, JJ, it's probably not a good idea that you fight, because that was such a huge opportunity?
Yeah, I talked to my manager Tracy about it, and it was kind of like we both agreed this probably isn't a good idea. I've taken fights injured, and it doesn't always work out the way you want it to. So. Mm-hmm. I just figured at this stage in my career, I can't afford too many lawsuits.
Mm-hmm. How difficult was it for you to make that decision to pull out of that fight? Because obviously, if you would have won that fight, you become RFA champion, and that's your ticket into the UFC, and that's ultimately where you want to be. How difficult was it for you to not be able to fight on that date?
It really sucks, because you start thinking about where you want to be and all the work you put in. And it was hard. I think about it all the time, where I'd be right now if I'd have just taken the fight. So I just wish everything would have fallen into place. But obviously it didn't, so we're here now, chatting about Japan rather than the UFC.
Right. That's not a bad consolation prize.
No, it's not. I mean, since day one, I've always thought about going to Japan. Every fighter has their, we think about the old Pride days. And,
right.
That was when the heyday of MMA was. Anybody that thinks about fighting that knows, thinks about pride. And so, that's where I kind of feel like I'm going. Obviously, we're not going to be stomping each other in the cage, but, it's just awesome. It feels like where the root, or the samurais are from. So I'm happy about it. It's going to be an experience.
Right. Now, I'm just curious, how did this deal with Pancrase all come together? Because obviously, they're trying to really make a push and get more international talent. If you look at their shows, 5, 6, 7, 8 shows ago, there was a lot of Japanese guys, but there wasn't guys from the United States, guys from Brazil, guys from Canada. But now they've added a lot of guys like you and Eric Prindle and some of the other guys that a lot of people are familiar with who have been fighting in the United States. They're bringing them over. Did they find you, or did you and your manager go to them?
No, it was interesting. They wrote me. It was like kind of a funny conversation. They asked me if I was signed with anybody, and I told them yes with the RFA deal. But it's not exclusive. Like, I could still fight outside of RFA as long as I got approval. And the second question they asked me, do you still have long hair? I said, yeah. Like, great, we'd like to sign you to a 3-fight contract. So it's kind of, the rest is history, I guess.
That's funny. I was going to ask you about your hair, but since you brought it up, is it difficult for you to maintain that hair? Keep it looking good, because some of these fighters out there, they it gets in their eyes, or it's difficult to keep nice because of all the sweat and all the training. Do you have difficult periods maintaining your hair?
With fights, I really haven't come up with a proper solution. I remember laughing at Clay Guida a couple of years ago, like maybe 5, 6 years ago, actually, because he would constantly be wiping his hair out of his eyes during fights. I'm like, man, he's got to cut it. And then, here I am now doing the same thing in my last couple fights. So I definitely need to come up with a solution. Maybe I'll do like the rows for the next one, like cornrows. No, it's not too difficult during training. I tie it up over and over between rounds, so it hasn't been really a problem.
Okay. Now, just curious, why did you decide to grow the hair out?
Man, it's hard to say, but I remember when I was a kid, I always looked up to Conan the Barbarian. It seemed like all these heroes had long hair, and as I've gotten older, I just kind of have regressed back into being a little kid. It's funny, I play video games, and I buy all the old toys that I wish I had when I was a kid. They just sit there on the shelf, but, I have them.
Right.
So I've kind of just digressed, like I said, into this kid that I wish that I was when I was younger. So I have long hair now, and I have abs, so that's kind of cool. I feel like a superhero sometimes.
Right.
I just basically do everything that I wish I could have done when I was a kid.
Right. You look like Tarzan now, and I know your nickname is Superman, so I guess you look like the Black Superman. When he comes back from the dead, you look like him now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was at Disneyland with my wife and kid maybe 6 months ago, and Princess Jasmine said that I look like Tarzan.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's scary. You look exactly like the Disney version of Tarzan. You're like the human version of that.
Not bad. Maybe one of these years I'll wear a loincloth for Halloween and run around.
Yeah. That's funny. I'm curious, you mentioned toys. What are some of the toys that you never had as a kid that you now own because, you're obviously an adult and you can buy that stuff?
Man, I have a really massive, I know they're not toys, but I have a really big sword collection. All kinds of different medieval weapons. I have a couple suits of armor now. I was just at a Renaissance fair last weekend, and I bought some chainmail. I thought that was pretty cool. But I collect all the action figures. I had a bunch of toys when I was a kid, don't get me wrong, but, it wasn't like what I have now. Now it's just ridiculous. I have, shelves full of them. I need to get an office pretty soon, or some kind of desk gig after I get done fighting, because I got a lot of stuff I need to hang up.
Right. Just curious, what are some of the action figures? I'm a big collector myself. What do you got?
mean, it'd be hard to start, but like pretty much like any movie that I've ever liked, you know, from like 300, I have like all the little Spartan figures. I love Superman. I love all the superheroes, to be honest. Like Superman just got caught on as something I picked up in Thailand, but I love Batman. Batman's actually my favorite superhero, but I mean, I got stuck with the Superman gig. Man, we collect pretty much everything. I have all the new Game of Thrones toys.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They've got a good line of action figures, and my daughter and me just started collecting all like the vinyl figures. You know, the big old heads.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We have a couple hundred of those now. It's getting kind of obnoxious between the two of us.
I hear you. Now, I'm just curious, you brought up the nickname Superman. How did you get that nickname? You said you got it in Thailand?
Yeah, so I was in Thailand, and I would wear superhero shirts everywhere. Like, over there, I don't know if you've ever been to the Philippines, but they're just everywhere. Everyone's wearing a Superman, Green Lantern, Batman, you name it. Captain America. They've got them all over there. So I wear those to practice sometimes. And I was wearing a Superman shirt one day, and I was sparring with the Thais. The Thais don't always speak the best English, but they can usually get their point across. And I was wearing a Superman shirt, and they started laughing at me one day, and they said, "You're just like Superman." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool. Why?" And they're like, "Very strong, but no technique." Like, oh, damn it. That's exactly the opposite. So I had a Muay Thai fight a couple weeks later, and they wrote down, instead of my name, they just wrote Superman on the poster. So it kind of ran with it after that. I mean, it caught on. It was cool. I mean, the story's kind of silly. Like, it's not exactly what you'd expect, but it's cool. I wish I could drop it now. I hate it because it's kind of like you have to live up to those expectations. So,
okay. I was just curious about that. Yeah, I was just curious about that because I thought it was like, you know, when you're outside the cage, you're like Clark Kent, you're mild-mannered, but then when you get in the cage, you're doing all these extraordinary things, so I thought that's how you might have got that nickname, so...
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that'd be a cool story, and in retrospect, it kind of is. I mean, I'm pretty mild-mannered outside of the cage, and I get a little wild inside, but, I mean, who doesn't? Like, I can't think of too many MMA fighters that... I mean, aside from Nick Diaz, who is exactly who he is outside and inside. I mean, I think we're all kind of like that.
Right. Now, you said that you're still under contract with RFA?
Yeah, I still have the same contract with them. Luckily, they're not holding me to, like, an exclusive thing. But as soon as this Pancrase fight is over, I'm pretty sure that me and Maggie Baghdad will be fighting for the title.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me get this straight. You're exclusive in Japan to Pancrase, but exclusive to the United States with RFA, or is it just with permission?
RFA is really cool. They're letting me, as long as I get permission from them, I can fight pretty much anywhere. And with Pancrase, they have Asia exclusivity. So.
Okay. I see. Now, in the past, you know, when we think of Pancrase, we think of Bas Rutten, Ken Shamrock, we think of those guys fighting in a ring, but I've seen the recent Pancrase events, they've been fighting in a cage, so is this fight going to be in a cage?
Yeah, it's in a cage, and obviously I won't be wearing those massive boots that they used to wear back in the day with the shoulders.
Right.
It is closed fist now, so I have to explain that every time I say I'm fighting for Pancrase. It's not a Pancration fight, it's just the name of the organization.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. I told somebody that I was interviewing you, and they asked me, because they had seen your Bellator fights, they were asking me, where's he fighting? And I said Pancrase, and they asked me that same thing. Wait, the thing with the boots, and it's like a hybrid of pro wrestling and MMA and like weird rules? And I'm like, no. It's MMA now.
Right? Yeah. Same situation. You have to explain it almost every time. Because it does kind of look like what the pro wrestlers wear.
Yeah. Now, you're going to be fighting, I hope I get his name right, you're going to be fighting Kazuki Tokudome. I hope I got his name right. He's a UFC veteran. He's been around for a little while. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
Like I said, I haven't done a whole lot of research. All I know is in practice, I'm fighting nothing but, or I'm sparring with nothing but southpaws. And honestly, that's it. Like, my coach has been showing me the combinations he wants me to throw that he's susceptible to. But to be honest, I haven't even looked him up yet. So, like, when you said his name, that was news to me.
Okay. I hear you. Now, is this a tournament? Is this the first round of a tournament? Because I noticed that there's a lot of fights that are in the same weight class that you fight in. So, is this a tournament they're setting up?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't been told anything like that. I think it's just a one-off fight.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions that are just random questions, off-topic kind of stuff, just random stuff that I ask everybody. So, but some of them are tailored specifically to you. So, I'm just curious, how did you meet your wife exactly? Obviously, your wife is a relative of the people who own PXC. How did you meet her?
It's funny. She'll love this. To be completely honest, I was in Vegas with my manager and a couple other guys, and we were there for the UFC. I think it was 100 or 101. It was Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir.
Okay, 100. Yep.
The reason why I remember that one so well is because we did a parlay on that fight. Like, we had 5 fights, and if we won, we ended up with $1,000. And Brock Lesnar goes out there and gets toe hold, and we lose. So I always remember that forever. But after the fight, I was in line to get a Starbucks, and apparently my wife pointed me out to her cousin and said, "Hey, he looks like a fighter. Who's that?" And she was kind of like an MMA fan at the time, and she just so happened to know who I was. I wasn't a big deal at the time. Still not a big deal in my opinion, but she knew who I was, and she kind of introduced her to me, and I got her number, and the rest is kind of history. We started dating after that. Turned out she didn't live too far away from me, back home in California, so we just started dating and kept in touch, and kind of went from there.
So it's just a coincidence that she's related to people that you used to fight for in the past.
I didn't fight for PXP until I met her, actually.
Okay. Because the story that I was playing in my head, I have all these stories about you, but none of them are true. The nickname one and now this one. I thought it was like something where you did good in PXC, and that's like what won you points with her.
No, not at all. She doesn't really like it. She doesn't enjoy fighting.
Okay.
She was actually there in Vegas that weekend for like a Super Bowl party with her parents. So just happenstance, real lucky that I saw her there at Starbucks.
Okay. Now, what is her relation to the people who own PXC? Is she their daughter? Is she a niece? Is she a cousin? What's her relation?
She's the daughter.
Oh, okay. I see.
And she said, up until that point, that UFC was the first one she had been to. She never went to the PXC.
Okay, interesting. Now, that tattoo that you have, it's a sleeve. What is that of?
That's a samurai. And also on my forearm is written Juliet. I have right before my daughter was born, I had gotten her name on there. And then the samurai came after.
Okay. Now, your parents, from what I've heard, are very supportive of your fighting career. I've heard your dad is really supportive, really enjoys that you fight. I'm just curious, is that because, you're his son and he supports you in everything you do, or is he just a really big fan of MMA?
Man, both. We grew up watching boxing. Like, I remember sitting on his lap watching all the old fights. I remember watching Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield. That was a pretty fond memory, but it's just been something that's been a thing between me and my dad. We've always liked watching the fights together, and since my very first fight, since wrestling tournaments, since boxing, he's just been there for everything. If he can make it, he's there. one of those amazingly supportive dads no matter what I do. But I think with the fighting thing, it's like on another level with him. You know, he really enjoys being around it. And it's funny, like I've had him like near the corner when I fought, and I can hear him yelling things, you know. Like, I remember I had this guy, I think his back, and I started punching him, and I remember him hearing him yell, "He doesn't like that, keep doing it, keep doing it." I remember chuckling to myself, and I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Dad, I think I will," you know. So, yeah, he's followed me around everywhere. I mean, he came and visited me in Thailand during training camps. He just likes to be a part of it, I think, and be there for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, do you have any aspirations in pursuing an acting career? Because I saw a video that I thought was very funny. It was a while ago, but I saw this video. It was you. They brought you into a gym, and you were kind of like this nerdy guy. You were playing this nerdy guy who wanted to try out fighting, and then you spot Ashley Evans Smith, and then it becomes like a love story and like a little bit of a dream, and then you get knocked out, and then when you wake up, everyone's huddled around you. I thought it was a very funny video. Do you have any interest in pursuing an acting career?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool. It's really difficult to focus on anything outside of fighting at the moment. But, yeah, of course. I mean, every kid has that dream of being like an action hero or something like it. I mean, of course, that'd be awesome to do. Right now, like, I do, like, these, like, small modeling gigs here and there. I did a runway show last weekend, you know, just basically walking up and down this runway wearing suits. And then I did something kind of brag-worthy / I don't ever want to do it again. There was this photo shoot for a romance novel, you know, like that one aisle that everyone tries to avoid. But so I'm on a couple book covers now for like these really terrible romance novels that you could find in like Barnes and Noble.
Oh, is that the one with you in a cowboy hat?
Yeah, like there's that one. There's another one where I'm like wearing like a cowboy outfit, like medieval warrior. There's a bunch of them. I mean, they're absolutely awful. But you know, at the end of the day, like I could tell my friends that their mom is probably looking at my book right now.
Right. I hear you. Now, the Batman vs. Superman trailer just came out recently. Number one, have you seen it? And if you have seen it, number two, what were your thoughts about it? I know it's early and there wasn't a lot that you could see from it, but if you saw it, what did you think of it?
Oh, man, I just thought it was so good. You know, everyone was giving Affleck a lot of flack about being Batman. But, man, I think that when they approach actors with, "Hey, we'd like you to be Batman,"
right,
something like hits you. Like I feel like every single Batman besides George Clooney has just nailed it. You know, like I'm Batman. Like every kid, every male knows. Like those words are powerful. Saying I'm Batman, and that's big. So like when I heard Ben Affleck, you know, say, "Tell me something. Do you bleed?" Oh man. Next level, so excited, you know, like that's going to be amazing.
Right. And I thought he did a great job as Daredevil. I know a lot of people hate that movie, but I thought he did a good job in that movie, so I don't see why he's getting a bunch of hate. I think he'll do a great job as Batman.
Yeah, agreed. Like, you know, like all the choreography, like the fight scenes, I thought they were good. For whatever reason, they didn't get good reviews, but I liked that movie. I thought he was it was kind of gritty, like dark and gritty before, you know, The Dark Knight came out. You know, it was good. I liked it.
Yeah. Now, are you a fan of the Frank Miller graphic novel? Because that's kind of the direction that they're going with this. They're kind of going that direction of, you know, with the Batman and Superman fighting at the end. I guess it's kind of shaping up to look something like that. Are you a fan of that graphic novel?
Yeah, you know, like this whole thing with Batman being a nice guy, you know, people got to like get that out of their heads. Like whatever happened during the '90s with all the reboots they did where he's nice. I think it started with Adam West. You know, like he's a campy dude that just solves crimes. But man, he was vicious in the beginning. So I like that they're going back to that. And Frank Miller had a really good depiction of him. I think The only part about I didn't like is that obviously Superman loses, but we'll see how the movie goes. But like, I love getting into the argument with people about like who would win between Superman and like fill in the blank. And my whole thing is like the dude could push the Earth if he wanted to. You know, he could push the Earth towards the sun. He wins automatically. Game over. Like there's not even a fight. So. But I mean, at the end of the day, it will be a good fight, and I'm really excited for it.
Right. I can't wait for this movie. What did you think about Man of Steel? I didn't really enjoy that movie that much. I thought it was boring, and then when the action parts happened, I thought it was like an action overload. Like there was too much. There was too much CGI going on, and like the fights were completely drawn out and just eating up time. What did you think about that movie? I didn't really enjoy it that much.
So here's the thing. I didn't like when they did the present day stuff. I liked when they talked about Krypton, you know, with Russell Crowe and everything. I liked the whole origin story they did. I thought Kevin Costner was great in that movie. Like, I thought he was like the perfect dad, you know, like some of the things he said were just like, wow, that is what Superman's dad would say. You know, I thought that was cool. But you're right. It was very CGI loaded. And there was a lot of brooding, like too much teenage angst with Superman. You know, it was like it took too long for him to be Superman.
Agreed. Now, I'm just curious. Best advice that you've ever gotten? Best advice through fighting and through life, and who was the person who gave it to you?
You know, I feel like I've gotten so many good one-liners over the years, and of course you forget them. But I feel like my dad has always said, like, the best stuff, you know. He always had a way of making me feel guilty for not doing the right thing as far as training goes. Like, you know, he'd always tell me that there's somebody out there that wants it more. Or, you know, like, it's kind of like a guilt trip, but he knew what buttons to push to get me off my ass, you know. And now I'm at that point where I'm, like, kind of like on autopilot. I don't need to be pushed by anybody anymore, but when I was coming up, I was definitely a different person. I was, you know, more lazy, and now I've kind of embraced the whole lifestyle where I don't do anything but train. Like when people ask me what my hobbies are, I feel kind of like a question mark because I don't really know. I don't have any more. Like I just do jiu-jitsu and box and wrestle. So I mean, I guess I couldn't really sum it up to one thing, but it's definitely never stop working hard.
Right. Now, I was very interested to know that you're only 28 years old. Obviously, you've been fighting for a very long time, but you're still a very young guy. I thought maybe you were 32, 33, but I was surprised to know that you're only 28. You know, you started in the sport very young. So I'm just curious, how much have we seen of you? You know, how high is your ceiling? You know, how much have you shown to us?
I feel like I choked in any big fight that I've ever had with Bellator, Affliction. Man, I totally choked, like, almost every time. And it's, you know, like, I had the wrong mentality, you know. It was like, Paige Van Zandt said it last week. She said, every time I go out for a fight, it feels like it's my birthday. Well, if it was her birthday, then it was the opposite for me. It was almost like I was getting sent to my death. And that's just the worst mindset to have. You know, I would start, like, a couple weeks before a fight, I've, like, thought about what I'm going to do after. And I don't mean just, like, going to get cupcakes and ice cream after. I meant, like, future life stuff. Like, I never wanted to do this again kind of thoughts. And leading into a fight, that's the worst thing that I could think of. I need to be thinking, like, my opponent is raw meat and I'm starving. So, but I just feel like I've choked in all the big fights. So, to say what my level's at, it's infinitely higher. Like, I feel like I haven't gone Super Saiyan 1 yet, you know? So, I feel like I'm ready to burst out of the shell. I know it's kind of interesting saying that as I'm talking about choking before fights, but I feel like I've finally hit that maturity level as a fighter to where I'm starting to get way more relaxed in practice and in fights, and I definitely think, like, the next couple of years you're going to definitely see me emerge as the fighter that I'm supposed to be.
Some of those fights that you've had, like, I've come away with some of those losses, and when I've watched those fights, I've been like, you know what? I have to rethink a lot of stuff because, you're a really great grappler, but the Brent Weidman fight, I'm like, how did that happen? And then the Mike Pyle fight, he's a really good grappler, but how did that happen? So it's interesting that you bring up that you choked, your words, not mine, but you choked in those fights. It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if you watch the Brent Weidman fight, I had him in a darce in like the first minute and a half, and I remember in that fight, like, I remember thinking, as I'm thinking this darce up, that I need to not squeeze so hard so that I could save energy for the fight.
Right.
Like, what? Why did that even pop into my head? Instead of trying to squeeze this guy's head off, I'm thinking about reserving energy. All right. There's just like they say, the most important conversations you'll have are the ones you have with yourself.
Right.
And I was just having some garbage conversations with myself. So, like, I don't even know what my thought process was. With Mike Pyle, the game plan was to go out there and stand and bang with him. And it's funny because I go out there and I throw a good combination and I rock him a little bit, and then I shoot for a double A. So, just in hindsight, some really bad ideas that I've had during the fight.
Right. It seems like you're outthinking yourself. Like, instead of just staying and striking with them, you think that he's like going to be onto you, so you grapple. And like with the darce choke that you mentioned, like, Brent Weidman's going to eventually escape, and then I'm going to have to continue fighting him. Like, it seems like you're outthinking everybody. Like you're thinking way too much in there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because, when we're in practice, you don't even think. You just, you're on autopilot, and you just do. And I think that's what you're supposed to do during MMA. We have so much muscle memory, that's just what we're supposed to do. But then suddenly I'm thinking about other stuff. I mean, I might as well have been thinking about what I'm going to eat for dinner later that night. It's just awful experiences that I can think back to.
Right.
Like I said, like when you go in the cage, you have to kind of unleash, and I feel like when the times have come for me really to show where I'm at, man, I've been thinking about some dumb stuff, and, those, especially on those big fights, like where my head was at, is anybody's guess.
Now, I know you said at the beginning of the interview that you don't really know a whole lot about your opponent. You haven't watched him on video. You didn't even know his name until I mentioned it. But, he has fought in the big shows before. He has fought in the UFC. He's been around for a little while. And that's kind of like the big thing missing from your resume. Like, you fought a lot of tough guys, but not a lot of guys that you fought and defeated have that big name. The guys that you fought that have the recognizable names, you either haven't fought them or you've lost to them. Is that what you need on your resume to get to a big show? I know the guys that you have lined up in front of you, in RFA, they're just kind of up and coming guys who are trying to be in the big show, but do you really need those recognizable names to get Joe Silva interested and get him calling you?
I think, yeah, absolutely. definitely. I think he'll win over this Japanese fighter. See, I don't even know his name, and it's kind of embarrassing. But, yeah, if I beat him, it'll definitely look a lot better on my resume than the regional guys that I've been fighting.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. I need to get this win for my own peace of mind, basically, rather than Joe Silva.
Right. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the longest layoff that you've had in your career. It'll be a year and a day since your last fight when you step in the cage, when you fight for Pancrase. The last time you fought was May 30th of last year, and this fight is going to be May 31st. So has that been a good thing, having this layoff, maybe sharpening up on some old skills, adding new skills to your game, or does it, suck like we think it does? You haven't fought, you haven't gotten paid. How has this layoff been for you?
The layoff's been pretty good, actually. I've been doing so many jiu tournaments. It seems like once or twice a month I'm doing a BJJ tournament. So I'm always competing. I went back to wrestling. I coached high school wrestling this year for the first time, so that was kind of interesting. I've just done a lot of things that kind of gave me some peace of mind, and like kind of, I don't know if you call it getting back to like the roots, but I went back to kind of like a happy place, if that makes sense. And I always enjoyed wrestling and in school, so getting back was cool. Doing all these jiu-jitsu tournaments that I've been doing, it's been a lot of fun. It was cool. Like, I remember, like, after MMA fights, I'm like, well, it's cool that I got a check, but can I get a trophy too?
Right.
No, the jiu-jitsu tournaments are the opposite. You get no money and a medal. So that was kind of cool. The little kid in me was happy again, Like, I get shiny objects to show off.
Right.
Well, it's been a rewarding layoff. I get to spend some time with my kid, and I definitely improved a lot in my skill set. My stand-up's gotten a lot better. I mean, I know I haven't had a whole lot of... I haven't been able to show it off outside of the gym, but I definitely feel more confident on the feet now than I ever have. Even, like, when I lived in Thailand and I was doing Thai fights, like, this is the sharpest I've ever been.
Right. Now, you fought in a lot of countries that we don't think of MMA right off the top of our heads. Like, when we think countries that are good in MMA, we think of the United States, Canada, Japan, Brazil, England. We think of those kind of countries. But you fought in Kuwait, you fought in Taiwan, you fought in Guam, you fought in a lot of countries that we don't think of when we think of MMA. What was it like fighting in those countries?
It was cool. So it's a new sport, so like the audiences are always different, and you really don't know what to expect. But fighting in all these little off the beaten path countries has been cool. I get to explore parts of the world that I never thought I would go to. Going to Kuwait was wild. I went to the Middle East where it has this stigma in America where that's where all the wars are going on. And I go there, and there's, like these amazing cities with these people that open up their homes to you, and like the hospitality is just next level. So, I don't know. It definitely made me grow as a person more than a fighter than anything. It was just really rewarding going to all these places,
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, like when I fought in Taiwan, I didn't know the guy that I was fighting. Same situation where I didn't even look him up. But I looked him up the other day, and that kid's like the featherweight Road FC champion. So I was like, holy shit, that's pretty wild. He wasn't a named man, but he certainly made a name for himself now.
Right. Out of all the places you fought, where's your favorite place to fight?
Probably Thailand. Just doing those small Muay Thai shows, it was a lot of fun. The audiences love it. You go wild. And there's not a whole lot of pressure. I love that on any given day, there's probably going to be some Thai boxing somewhere in Thailand. I love that it's so nonchalant. It's kind of like their baseball for us,
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a big deal over there. Like, it is a big deal, but I mean, it's not a big deal. Like, it's not the World Series over there, They have them every day. So, I don't know. The fight culture over there is just completely different from over here. Whereas we see fighting as like, oh my God. They see it as like, oh, cool, Thai boxing. Like baseball here.
Right. I hear you. Now, if you weren't a fighter, what would your career be?
If I was a fighter?
If you weren't a fighter, what would your career be?
I was like, hard to say. Like, I can hardly see myself doing a 9-to-5 job. Maybe I pursue this acting or modeling career. I'm not really sure, but I can't see myself behind a desk for very long. I get kind of like ADD, and I don't like really sitting still. So, it's hard to say, but probably definitely try to get into the acting.
Okay. If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change, and why?
Oh my God, selfies. I'm glad you asked me this question. Check this out. So, me as a fighter, like, I do have to market myself a bit. I have to post pictures of myself doing stuff. But holy crap, there has to be a limit to this stuff.
Right.
I see all these fighters, like UFC guys and girls, especially girls, because anything that a guy does, if a girl does it, it's multiplied by 10 because they have boobs.
Right, right.
You imagine if I was a female fighter, I'd have 10 times as many people watching me.
Right.
Because I have boobs, and it's just the way guys are. We're trolls and we're thirsty.
Right. Right.
So they're on this massive stage, and everybody's looking at them. And instead of saying something to better their world, they're making duck lips. So it kind of just drives me crazy. They're not saying peace in the Middle East. They're not saying save the forests, save the oceans, etc. They're saying, hey, look at my lips, or look at my chest, look at my butt. I worked out this today. That drives me absolutely insane. So I guess the thing that I would change is less ego and more feeding the soul for everybody.
Right, right. I hear you. Number one thing.
I know that's not going to give me a whole lot of fans thinking that way, and I'm probably not going to be the most popular fighter among female fighters. But man, there just has to be a point where you're a role model for all these people. So send a message. Don't send your boobs.
Right. Yeah, it's getting out of hand, these selfies. I'll never take a selfie. That's a fact. I don't really get why guys are taking selfies. I can get why girls are taking selfies, and it's not like just an MMA thing. It's like every girl out there, but like guys taking selfies, that just drives me crazy. So I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get it every once in a while here and there, or if you're in front of the Eiffel Tower,
right,
snap a selfie, dude,
right,
do it.
Right.
If you're in front of the Eiffel Tower, or you're with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
I get it. Man, every day in front of the same stupid mirror,
right.
There has to be more to your world than your reflection,
Right, right. It's one thing if, like, you're in a foreign country somewhere and there's no one to take a picture of you. I get that, but like you're saying, in front of the same mirror, the same position every day, like, I don't get it. I don't like that.
Yeah, and these progress photos that all my friends seem to be taking that are in the fitness world, I'm like, dude, I don't care what your back looks like today or tomorrow or last month. Just, man, there's got to be more to the world than our own reflection.
Right, right. I hear you. Number one thing on your bucket list?
I really want to see the pyramids. That's been one of my things, and Angkor Wat. I lived in Thailand for years, and I didn't go over to Cambodia for some reason. I just want to see all the ancient wonders. I just want to see more of the world. I don't want to jump out of a plane. I have this fear of dying on a plane, so that's not really my thing. But I definitely want to see more like ruins. I want to go to ancient Greece and check that out. Maybe go see the Colosseum this year or something.
Okay.
I went to Japan last Christmas, and we went to Tokyo Disney, and it occurred to me that I ate sushi one time, and I didn't get to see one freaking temple. All we did was go to Tokyo Disney. That drove me crazy. That was absolutely mind-boggling. I can't wait till my daughter's of an age where I was like, hey, let's go to a museum, and she agrees with me. Right.
Right. My brother went to France, and all he went to was Disney Paris. So,
yeah. So he didn't get to make it to the Eiffel Tower either.
No, he just went to Disney Paris, and that was it. And then because he lives in Germany right now because he plays for a German football league, like American football, but in Germany.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he made the trip there, but he just went to Disney because they got a group of guys there, and I guess he went with some German guys who are they live in Germany all year round, and they just went because they wanted to see Disneyland, so he didn't get to see any of that stuff. But maybe this year because he's there right now. But I definitely can.
It's such a sad state, as a dad, that like we do everything our kids want to do, and then like we completely forget about ourselves.
Right. Yep. First girl you ever kissed, and how old were you when it happened?
Wife's going to be upset. I was in kindergarten, I think. A girl named Amber. You shouldn't remember these kinds of things, but I remember it being so nonchalant when I was in kindergarten. But then I didn't kiss another girl for another 6-7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember at the time thinking nothing of it, and then for the rest of my elementary school career, it was a huge deal. You know, like I didn't even hold a girl's hand until 6th grade.
Mm. Oh, okay. So you were in kindergarten when this happened, this first kiss.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, you're doing a lot better than I am. I'm 22 and I've never spoken to a girl.
Ow.
I'm kidding.
They're just ninjas. I always say that girls want the exact same things as us, but as long as nobody finds out about it.
Right.
So, if you take that with a grain of salt, I mean, then you'll probably do a lot better than I did.
Right. I was just kidding about that. I thought it was a better joke. I played it in my head, and it was a better joke then. But anyways, superpower. Obviously, your nickname's Superman, so I'm assuming it's flying, or is there another superpower that you would like if you could have one?
So again, I'm still afraid of falling. So the thought of flying scares the hell out of me. Sometimes I'll wake up on a plane when I'm in mid-flight, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, because there'll be turbulence, of course, and I'm like, all right, this is it. You know, I'm like, life's over. But, so I definitely can throw on a flying. Maybe it'd be like immortality, because I also have this fear of dying. You know, I'm not exactly a religious person. I haven't really found my religion, I guess you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely would just be immortality, like impervious to everything. Even when the sun explodes, I still want to be around.
Right. Celebrity crush.
Celebrity crush. Man, I don't even like girls right now. Like, my wife's gonna be so upset at me for all the answers already.
What about when you were a kid?
I mean, I'll go with an old one.
Yeah.
Like, when I was younger, I used to like Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Okay.
They get mad at me for that.
Okay.
And ever since I saw her in Can't Hardly Wait, that was it. That was the girl for me. Like, her getting pregnant twice now, I think, and getting married hasn't disturbed me. I still have the same youthful lust for her.
Okay. Time period you'd love to go back and visit, and why?
Medieval times, because I should have been a knight. There is no reason why I should have been born in this time period. I think about this all the time. I should have been a knight or a samurai or something to that effect. Every day I wake up and I have to pay taxes or pay a power bill or water bill, etc. And I think about it, I'm like, man, why aren't I just fighting right now? I should be serving some king and lighting out forts with my sword and armor and fighting in foreign battles.
Right. Just be like Robin Hood. If they want to cut your taxes, just try to revolt.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. I'm paying a power bill. I don't even need the electricity. Let's just light a fire.
Right.
Go hunting. Like, there's a deer outside. Let's take our bow and arrow and let's go get it.
Right.
I don't want to go to the grocery store anymore. I'm tired of it.
Right. Now, what would you rather be known as? The greatest fighter of all time or the richest fighter of all time? What are you pursuing more, glory or wealth?
I never thought, like, I always think about this, actually. Like, I never have been into this for money. There's been a couple of times where I tell the promoters, like, listen, I'll fight on your shitty show, just don't tell anybody how much you paid me.
Right.
Because it's embarrassing, you know?
Right.
I really love fighting. I love being, I don't even think it's being in front of a crowd or getting my hand raised. I just really like testing myself. It's just that I've always been really competitive, whether I'm playing chess or checkers or fighting or wrestling, you know? Like, I've always just been really competitive and I always wanted to test myself. Not prove myself, because I don't really care what anybody says, but I always wanted to test myself. Mm-hmm. You know? So, like, ever since I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So, let me be the greatest fighter of all time, and Conor McGregor can enjoy all the money.
Right. Is this a good payday you're getting from Pancrase? I know it's not any of my business, but is this a good payday? Because, you know, the Japanese, throughout the history of this sport, have been notorious for paying very well. So is this a good payday?
Really? Like, I haven't heard that yet, but it's very average. Like, it's probably one of those ones where I tell the guys probably don't divulge this information to Joe Silva.
All right.
You know?
Right. Right. Okay. Because we've heard stories, from the old Pride days, especially, there was, the promoter brings a briefcase full of $100 bills in American money. We've heard all these crazy stories. So I'm surprised that you haven't heard about any of this stuff. But maybe it's not like that anymore because, obviously, JMMA
I
is not.
remember like those massive checks that they used to give, like when Dan Henderson won the fight tournament.
Right.
I remember they give him really big checks and stuff. And I heard about like the locker room deals,
right.
But what I'm getting on paper, what I'm reporting to the tax man, isn't very significant.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to pay for my kids' private school this year. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. That's unfortunate, but okay. I guess it must be that downturn because there was that point in time where Dream and Sengoku weren't paying anybody. They were having them fight, but the checks never arrived. Like Gary Goodrich, it took him 4 years to get paid or something like that. Something crazy.
Ouch.
Yeah. Now, how would you rather win a fight? Would you rather win a fight by knockout or submission?
A body shot. I'd love to drop a guy from a body shot because I feel like submissions, like if you get them in an arm lock, if they don't tap, they're going to break their arm. So like that sucks. But I don't blame people. And then when you put someone in a choke and they fall asleep, then that was involuntary. And if I knock them out with a shot to the chin, that was involuntary. Like their mandible click and their brain shuts them down. But if you hit them in the body, they decide, like, this is it. I cannot get up anymore. So I think it'd be awesome to hit somebody in the liver or give them a liver kick or something, and they don't get back up. That'd be amazing.
Right. What motivates you in life, and what motivates you in fighting?
With life, I guess it's fun. Like, I don't get my kicks off the same way people do. I hate bars. I've always hated being in crowds. Like that, I'm not the kind of guy that'll go to Coachella or Burning Man. But like, I like having fun like a kid would, I guess. I enjoy taking my kid to the park and going to Disneyland with her. And I do this LARPing thing on the weekend where we fight with foam swords and dress up like as medieval characters and fight. I think that's cool. So I mean, that's what motivates me in life. It's not my next beer or my next paycheck. Just stuff like that. And then with fighting, like, I look at all these fighters that were about to give up. Like, I read an interview recently about Conor McGregor. Like number 11, he was about to give up a couple years ago, and then the UFC called, and, the rest is history. Now he's fighting for the title. But that's the kind of stuff that motivates me. I'm 10 years into the sport, but it's not over yet. I feel like it's just beginning. Like, I'm just now at the point where I'm ready to go.
Right. Person you look up to?
Alive or dead, or how are we doing that?
Anyone. It can be in life, it can be in fighting, it can be anybody. Or it can be multiple people, whatever you want.
I look up to all the girls that don't post their selfies on. I love it. If there's girls out there right now grinding at the gym or at a 9 to 5, so they can keep their kids, that's the kind of people that I look up to, because they're getting after life. They're not getting after social status.
Okay. That's an interesting one. I wasn't going to expect that one, but I like it. Best thing about your job?
Best thing about my job, I get to spend as much time as I want with my kid, and I'll never miss an event. Like if she has random play on May 5th, I'll be able to go to that at any time during the day. Like there's very rare occasions where I won't be able to go because I'm like in fight camp or I'm out of the country. But I'm never going to miss a birthday or Christmas or anything like that. I'm always going to be able to be there for her, And I remember growing up, my dad had to miss a lot of stuff because he had a 9 to 5, and it sucks, you deal with it, but average Joe has a 9 to 5, so luckily I'm in that situation where I can go to everything that I want,
Right. Time travel or space travel?
Oh, that's so hard. we're in such an interesting situation right now where we have the ability to go into space, but we keep fighting on Earth and spending all our money on new warcraft, like fighter jets and stuff. I heard that we just designed a new one and we spent all kinds of money on it. But we have this situation where we can go to space, but we keep fighting instead. So
right.
It'd be interesting if we all kind of directed all of our energy towards exploring the universe instead of beating each other up. Let us do the fighting instead of countries and governments.
Right.
But man, that's hard. So I'd love to go back in time and see all the cool stuff that's happened. So I guess even though I'd love to see what's out there in space, I'd love to see if there was aliens. I definitely want to be a time traveler.
Right. Favorite movie?
Either Last Samurai or Gladiator.
Okay. Favorite TV show? Favorite TV show that's still on air, and favorite TV show that's no longer on air?
I do watch the funny cartoons and stuff. I watch American Dad and Family Guy. Right now, I'm really hooked on Game of Thrones and Mad Men, so it's really a toss-up between those two. I read the books when I was in high school, the Game of Thrones series, so it's really interesting to see how that show comes along and how they portray things. I don't know if you've read the books, but they really paint a different picture from the books, where they hold up sign cards for you practically in the show so that you could follow what they're doing, because there's so much content in the book. Because there's things that I miss in the books that are in the shows because they literally draw the picture for you. But so definitely Game of Thrones, and then off air, I really like Deadwood. I feel like Deadwood never got the finale that it needed. They kind of kept one season short. That sucks.
Okay. What do you worry about? What keeps you up at night?
Sometimes, not the normal stuff, I guess. Every once in a while I'll have a panic attack I was talking about dying. I think about, someone needs to hurry up and invent the Matrix so that I can hook my brain up to that when it's time for me to go. Because I really don't like the idea of not waking up. I really like my ego and my psyche. And I feel like I like being me. So I'd like to be, people say, well, it's just as if you were never born. Or it was before you were born. Well, I didn't like it before I was born. It wasn't fun back then. So I'd like to live forever. So I think about that kind of stuff at night sometimes. It's never, I never stress about what's going on in the world and what's going on with the next day. That never bothers me. Because I genuinely enjoy life.
Right.
So, no. That's it. Silly stuff. I have to create scenarios to be worried about.
Okay. Pet peeve?
We already dove into the whole selfie thing, but that's one of them. And I really don't like talking to people that I don't enjoy talking to. So, for instance, if I go to the gym, I do some private at a strength and conditioning gym. So, the trainers there, they not all of them, but most of them, they kind of suck. They're just the whole personal training thing. It's about selling. It's about selling yourself to a client rather than actually training them. You have to basically bullshit somebody to get money from them, and I hate that whole side of the fitness industry. It sucks because anybody could train themselves if they opened up a book. So instead, you kind of you talk to them and you show them all this BS. It's really hard to get into, but I guess that's my pet peeve is other personal trainers.
Okay. Last question before I let you go, and I really appreciate you being so generous with your time. I really appreciate it. Hidden talent. What's your hidden talent?
I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I pick up things pretty well, though. Any sport or activity, I tend to do pretty well at if I put my mind to it. Or if I enjoy doing something the first time, then I'm pretty good at it usually.
Okay. Real quick before I let you go, JJ, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
I'd like to thank Grips and Bulletproof and Thrill Science. They kind of keep this boat from sinking, like there's been a lot of times where I've been pretty close to having to get a 9-to-5 job, and they've done a good job of making sure that doesn't happen yet.
Right. JJ, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck May 31st at Pancrase 267.
All right, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.